The starter home used to cost $110,000. That was 1990. Your parents bought one. They put down $15,000. Their mortgage was $640 a month. Their combined income was $48,000. The math worked. The starter home today costs $420,000. You earn $60,000, the median income for someone your age in America. Not low, not exceptional, exactly the middle. To buy that $420,000 home, you need an income of roughly $141,000 a year. You have $60,000. The gap between what you earn and what the entry point costs is $81,000 a year. That gap does not exist because you are lazy. That gap exists because the starting line moved and nobody announced it. Here is what they told you. Start small, buy a starter home, build equity, trade up in 5 years. That is how it works. That is how it has always worked. That is the path. Nobody mentioned the path had been rerouted. The starter home, the small 3-bedroom, the fixer-upper, the affordable first step has been disappearing for decades, not because it stopped being built overnight, because of 3 things that happened at the same time and nobody explained to you before you graduated. The first thing was the math of building. Developers build what makes money. A 2,800 square foot home generates more profit per unit than a 1,200 square foot home. Land costs the same, permits cost roughly the same, labor costs roughly the same. But the larger home sells for significantly more. So over the last 30 years, the average new home built in America got larger and more expensive. The smaller, cheaper homes that would have been built on that land were never built. The U.S. has spent 3 decades building fewer small homes while the number of people who need small homes grew. Less supply, same demand, higher price. That is not a conspiracy. That is a spreadsheet. The second thing was interest rates. In 2021, mortgage rates were at 3%. For one brief window, buying was almost affordable. The monthly payment on a $300,000 home at 3% was $1,265. Then inflation happened. The Fed raised rates. By 2023, mortgage rates were above 7%. The same house, same price, $731 more per month. That's $8,772 a year more for the exact same walls because of a number set by people you did not elect. The people who already owned homes watched their existing low-rate mortgages become the most valuable financial asset in their portfolio. They stopped selling. Why would you sell a house with a 3% mortgage to buy a different house with a 7% mortgage? So inventory froze. The homes that would have come onto the market stayed off it, and the homes that were available got more expensive because fewer of them existed. You arrived at the market in the exact window when rates were highest and inventory was lowest. That was not bad timing on your part. That was the year you turned 25. The third thing was investors. Not the story you've probably heard, the one where a single corporation owns half the houses in America. That story isn't accurate. The accurate story is smaller and stranger. In 2021, investors bought nearly 1 in 4 homes sold in America. Not just large institutions, mostly smaller investors, landlords, holding companies, private equity vehicles looking for yield in a zero-interest rate world. They had something you did not have: cash. When you make an offer on a house, you need a mortgage pre-approval, an inspection contingency, an appraisal contingency, 30 days to close. When an investor makes an offer on a house, they bring cash, no contingencies, and can close in 10 days. In a bidding war between you and a cash buyer, the cash buyer wins. Not because they wanted the house more than you, because the seller wanted certainty more than price. In 2021 alone, as investor purchases increased by 44% year over year, the share of homes bought by first-time buyers fell to just 26%, the lowest since 2014. You were not losing to a faceless algorithm, you were losing to someone with a briefcase and no mortgage. Lucas is 64. You see him at a family dinner in October. Lucas bought his first house at 29, $112,000, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, small yard. The mortgage was $580 a month. He made $41,000 that year. You tell Lucas you've been saving for a down payment. You have $18,000. You need 20% of $420,000. You need $84,000. At your current savings rate, it will take you 4 more years to hit that number. Assuming prices don't rise in those 4 years. They will rise. Lucas does not say the market is tough right now. Lucas does not say hang in there. Lucas does not say interest rates might come down. Lucas says one thing. Lucas says the house he bought for $112,000 is worth $390,000 today, and then Lucas says nothing else. He doesn't have to. You are watching someone who got in before the door changed, and you are standing outside a door that costs 3 times what it cost him. That is not a motivational moment. That is the actual math of generational timing. Here is what the starter home scam actually is. Not a single villain, not one company buying everything, not one policy that caused this. It's the accumulation of 30 years of decisions made by people who already owned homes and therefore had no incentive to make homes more affordable. Zoning boards that blocked smaller housing, developers who built larger because it was profitable, interest rate environments that rewarded existing owners and punished new buyers, tax structures that incentivized holding property, a market where cash always beats financing. Today, 67% of Gen Z adults say they struggle to cover housing costs. That's the highest of any generation. Not because Gen Z is worse with money, because Gen Z arrived at the housing market after 30 years of decisions that made the starting price incompatible with the starting salary. The median age of a first-time homebuyer was 28 in 1991. Today, it's 38. 10 years. That is what the starter home scam cost in the most honest unit of measurement. Not dollars, years. The 10 years between 28 and 38 is the decade of compound interest working against you instead of for you. It's the decade of rent payments gilding someone else's equity. It's the decade of watching the price rise while you save toward a target that keeps moving forward. You are not behind because you failed to work hard enough. You are behind because the game changed somewhere between your parents signing and you arriving at the table. The starter home was never a scam. It was a real thing that worked for a generation that entered a market built at a scale that matched their salary. For you, the math doesn't match, not because you were the wrong kind of person, because you arrived at the wrong kind of moment. And the honest thing, the thing nobody in a suit will say on television, is that knowing that doesn't fix the $81,000 gap. But it does change what you do next. You stop trying to solve a structural problem with personal discipline. You start looking for the doors that are actually sized for you. They exist, they just don't look like the ones your parents walked through. Thank you for watching Priced Out. Please subscribe to see more Priced Out videos.